You're sitting across from a hiring manager. The interview's going great. Then they ask the question that changes everything. What are your salary expectations? Your throat tightens. You've heard horror stories about pricing yourself out, so you do what most people do, you ask for the range. And in that moment, that single sentence, you just handed away thousands of dollars, maybe 15,000, maybe more. Here's what nobody tells you about salary negotiations. The first number spoken wins. Not because of magic, because of something called anchoring bias. It's one of the most powerful cognitive biases in psychology, and if you understand it, you can use it to completely rewrite how your career pays you. A Princeton study found that initial numerical anchors shift final outcomes by 15 to 25%, even when both parties know the anchor is completely arbitrary. Today, I'm giving you the exact psychology and the exact script to make that bias work for you, not against you. Let's rewind to 1974. Two psychologists, Daniel Kahneman and Amos Tversky, were running experiments that would eventually win a Nobel Prize. They asked people to spin a wheel, completely random numbers. Then they asked participants to estimate what percentage of African countries were in the United Nations. The wheel had nothing to do with the question. But people who landed on high numbers guessed higher. People who landed on low numbers guessed lower. The random number had anchored their thinking. It pulled their estimates toward it like gravity. That's anchoring bias, and it affects every negotiation you'll ever have. Fast forward to 2006. Researchers Galinsky and Musweiler decided to apply this to real-world negotiations. What they found was remarkable. When you make the first offer in a negotiation, the final outcome moves toward your number. Every counteroffer, every compromise, it all orbits your anchor. According to a comprehensive review of salary studies from 2024 and 2025, negotiators who make the first offer achieve an average of 30% higher final offers. 30% on a $100,000 offer, that's the difference between staying put and walking away with $30,000 more. And here's the thing. Most candidates just give this power away. They panic when asked about expectations and say those 5 words. What's the salary range? The moment you ask that question, you've handed them the anchor, and their anchor is always lower than what you would have asked for. Now I know what you're thinking. What if I anchor too high and price myself out? What if I look greedy or unrealistic? Here's the reality in 2026 with tools like Glassdoor, Levels.fyi, and LinkedIn Salary, that risk is almost non-existent. You can research exactly what roles pay at specific companies before you ever walk into an interview. The information asymmetry that used to favor employers, it's evaporating. According to Harvard's program on negotiation, research confirms that negotiators may gain an edge by making the first offer and anchoring the discussion in their favor. The same research shows that people who negotiate their salary get an average of 18.83% more than those who simply accept the first offer. Nearly 19%. That's not a rounding error. That's the difference between affording a house and stretching every month to make rent. And the numbers get even more dramatic when you're switching companies. Data from Robert Half shows professionals securing 20 to 25% increases through strategic negotiation. But here's what makes anchoring even more powerful and what most people completely miss. That early number doesn't just affect this offer, it affects everything that comes after. Every future raise, every bonus, every equity grant, they're all calculated as percentages of your base salary. An early win compounds forever. Think about it. A 5% improvement in your starting salary at 32 becomes the reference point for the next 30 years of percentage-based increases. So let's talk tactics. What do you actually say when the hiring manager asks about your expectations? First, and this is critical, you need to do your research before you're ever in that room. Glassdoor, Levels.fyi, LinkedIn Salary, Pay Scale, these are your weapons. You want to know the exact market rate for your role at companies of similar size in your geographic area? Not a vague sense, the actual numbers. Here's your script. When they ask what are your salary expectations, you might say, based on my research and experience, I'm targeting $145,000. Notice 2 things. 1. A specific number, not a range. Ranges say I'll take the bottom. A single number says I know my value. 2. Anchor 10 to 15% above your actual target. This gives you room to negotiate while still landing where you want to be. Now here's where most people make their second mistake. They throw out a number, then immediately start talking, justifying, backtracking, negotiating against themselves. Don't. State your number and stop talking. Silence is uncomfortable, but it's also your most powerful negotiating tool. Let them respond first. Interestingly, some research suggests that offering a range with your target as the bottom number can actually work in certain situations. Studies show that when you offer a range, hiring managers tend to focus on the higher number as long as your range is realistic and well-researched. So which approach should you use? Single number or range? Consider this. Single numbers project more confidence. Ranges offer more flexibility. Match your style to the situation. But regardless of which tactic you choose, one thing remains constant. You need to justify your anchor with substance, not need. According to National Search Group, candidates who quantify their results stand out and are significantly better positioned to negotiate stronger offers. Don't say, I need this amount because my rent went up. Say, based on market data and the 23% revenue growth I delivered in my last role, this is appropriate. The 2026 job market is tighter than recent years. Employers have more leverage, which makes anchoring even more critical because every advantage counts. Let me tell you about Marcus. He'd been a senior product manager for 4 years, stellar reviews, shipped 3 major products, but his salary hadn't moved in 2 years. A recruiter reached out about a role at a competitor, same level, but he knew it could be his chance to reset his compensation. So he did his homework. Marcus researched the company on levels. FYI, he found that senior PMs at his target company typically earned between $155 and $175. His current salary was $142. The old Marcus would have asked for the range, hoping they'd come in somewhere around $150. But he knew better now. When the hiring manager asked his expectations, Marcus took a breath. Then he said, based on my research and the scope of this role, I'm targeting $170. They countered at $158. He held firm, citing his track record. Final offer? $165. That's $23,000 more than his current salary. If he'd asked for the range, they would have opened at $152, the company's midpoint. His final would have been $155 at best, a $10,000 difference. And here's the kicker. Marcus almost didn't do it. He practiced saying $170 in the mirror for 3 days because it felt audacious. That discomfort? It's normal. Your anger should feel slightly bold, because if it feels completely comfortable, you're probably leaving money on the table. So here's what I want you to do this week. Pick a number for your current role. What would you ask for if you were negotiating today? Say it out loud. Notice how it feels. If you're actively job searching, research 3 companies you're interested in. Find their salary bands, calculate your anchor, 10 to 15% above target, then practice. Say your anchor number out loud until it rolls off your tongue naturally. Because in that 30-second window, confidence is everything. If you found this useful, if anchoring bias is new to you or you needed that reminder, consider subscribing. We cover strategies like this every week. One more thing. That 15% to 25% shift from anchoring. It's not just about the first number, it's about who controls the frame of the entire conversation. When you anchor first, you're not just setting a number, you're defining what reasonable means, you're establishing the boundaries of the negotiation itself. Studies from Thrive Culture Coaching confirm that people almost always default to any number rather than searching for better information. That's human psychology working for you. The hiring manager isn't immune to anchoring, they're human too. When you throw out 145, their brain automatically starts calculating around that number. Every counteroffer they consider, every approval they seek from their manager, it's all measured against your anchor. That's the gravity you've created. So let's recap your cheat code. When asked about salary expectations, don't ask for the range. Instead, anchor first with a specific number, 10 to 15% above your target. Back it up with market research and quantified achievements. Say your number and stop talking. Let silence do its work. That 30-second moment can add $15,000 or more to your offer, and every raise after that compounds from where you start. The psychology is on your side. The research is clear. Now you just need to be the one who speaks first. That's your anchoring advantage.